Hello everybody and welcome to the discussion of project management. I prepared this sequence of lessons for helping the individuals particularly engaged in the projects or those who want to learn the project management. In my observation, majority of the projects haven't accomplished successfully or they didn't provide what the stakeholders are expecting from the projects. Even though there are several factors, there are a lot of factors which contribute for the failure of the projects. One of the main factors that makes the project to fail is to have less knowledge or lack of knowledge about how to manage a project. So considering this, I want to share my knowledge about project management. So today I start to discuss about the project management lesson 1, that is introduction to the project management. By the way, knowing about project is essential for everyone because everyone in one way or in another way carries out project, or we can say every position in the company or every role in an organization has some projects. Maybe the scope varies. Regardless of its scope, everyone carries out a project, so project management is essential to everyone. So today let us start from lesson 1, that is introduction to the project management. This lesson covers these 5 topics, that is why the project is initiated, definitions of the project, characteristics of the project versus operation, and the last one is project program and portfolio. Let's start from why a project is initiated. There are several reasons for a project initiation, or there are different factors or different reasons that make the organization to initiate a project. Among those factors, let us see some of the reasons why an organization initiate a project. So the first one is business process improvement. If an organization wants to improve its business process or its overall system, so the organization may initiate a project. And the second is the economic or the technological change that's happening in the surrounding of the organizations. So the economic or the technological change may force or may push an organization to change or to align with the economic and the technological change. So the organization need to initiate a project. And the third one is the competitive force. If an organization is in a competitive environment or maybe in a perfectly competitive environment, so the organization may be forced to initiate a project so as to cope up the competitive environment. And the fourth one is the market demand. The demand of the market, actually, we know that the market is dynamic, or the needs of the customers are dynamic. So due to this dynamism, the company should satisfy the market with initiating a project. And the other reason may be to meet the stakeholder demand. The stakeholders like the board of directors or the CEO, the managers, the customers, the employees are some of the major stakeholders. So if these stakeholders need something which doesn't exist in the company, so the company need to initiate a project just to satisfy those stakeholders. And the last one is solving the problems. If there is a problem that exists in the company, there may be customer satisfaction issue or employee satisfaction or maybe a performance issue. So to solve these problems which exist in the company may initiate a project just to particularly solve these problems. So these are not the only problems that makes the organization to initiate projects. There are some more factors or issues that makes the organization to initiate a problem. That makes the organization to initiate a project. So coming to the definitions of a project, there are different definitions of a project provided by different scholars. Let us see two of them. Actually, what I observe from the definitions of a project is that there are important common terms within all the definitions. Let us see the first definition. It is a project is a specific set of activities designed to accomplish a well-defined unique objectives. Look, the red colors, the red color, just note the red colors. This one, the well-defined, this one, and this one. And when we see the second definition, it's a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. So the first important term from the second definition is temporary endeavor and unique product, service, or results. So from these two definitions, what we understand that is a project is a unique endeavor, or a project is a temporary endeavor which provides a unique product or well-defined unique product that doesn't exist previously. Okay, so these are the definitions. So moving to the characteristics of the project, actually the characteristics also take some more important terms from the definitions. So the first characteristic of a project is projects are unique that has never been done before. We already said that a project, the output of the project is unique. So one of the characteristics of a project is it's unique that hasn't never been done before. And second is projects are temporary in nature because they have definite beginning and ending date. They are temporary, they are not operation works, they are not written works. So they have the starting schedule and they have also the ending schedule. So this is another characteristics. And the third characteristics for a project is projects are completed when the project goals are achieved. Actually, there are some projects that maybe end up without achieving its goal. There are some projects that may be abandoned without achieving its goal. Anyway, in general, projects are completed when the project goals are achieved. And the fourth one is the specific budget and scope requirements of the project. For a project, there is a specific budget and there is also a scope, that is the boundary or the goal that the project is going to achieve. So these are specific. Actually, when we are doing a project, the budget may raise or the scope may be changed. Anyway, initially, there is a specific budget and scope requirements for a project. This is for the characteristics. And the other characteristic is usually involvement of several departments and professionals. We know that project is complex activities. It includes complex activity. That's why there is a need of several departments, just from, it may be from finance, from engineering, or from marketing, and so on. Because of its complexity in nature, the involvement of several departments is essential. And the involvement of several professionals is also a must. So, after finishing the characteristics, let us see the difference between the operations and the projects. So, with these aspects, with the first column aspect, let us see the difference between operation and projects. According to the nature of the activities, operation is ongoing. We know that it is a repetitive, it is a routine activities that we are repeating day by day. But a project is a temporary that has a beginning and ending date, and it has also unique output. According to the objectives, when we see the objectives, the operation achieve a routine or continuous goals. It's a routine or it is a repetitive, by the way. So it achieves routine or continuous goals, whereas the project achieve a specific objective. A project has a specific objective, unlike that of an operation. With regard to the durations, an operation has a long-term or indefinite period of time, by the way. An organization has indefinite existence, so there is long-term or indefinite time period, whereas in the case of project, there is short-term because it is temporary, there is ending and starting time. When we see the scope, the operation has defined and stable scope, by the way, whereas the project has defined and dynamic scope. The scope of the project may be varied. When we are doing a project, so we may vary the scope. We may just expand or narrow the scope. When we compare with the aspect of team structures, in the case of operation, there is a stable structure, by the way. There is a stable structure, or there is stable roles and responsibility. Whereas in the case of projects, the structure is temporary. The teams are formed for a temporary project. So after finishing the project, so the team will return back to the original offices. When we compare with regard to the resources, for operation, dedicated and ongoing resource exists, but for a project, allocated and specific resource exists. We allocate a resource, and that resource are specific, not just ongoing resource, because the project is a temporary. According to the risk level, we know that just by observing the previous features of the operation and the project, for operation, there is low risk because operation is a predetermined or a predicted or stable environment. So the risk level is lower in the case of operation, whereas in the case of project, the risk level is higher. The risk level is higher. So we need to take care, we need to give great attention for a project than what? Than the operations. Because the risk level of project is higher than the risk level of project is higher than the risk level of operation. In the case of monitoring and control, in the case of operation, there is a routine that is predicted, and in the case of project, it should be intensive monitoring and control because the risk is higher in the case of what? Project than that of the operation. So these are the difference between the operation and the project. Let us see some examples of operation and projects. Look here in the first column, the factory building and the software development are the projects because they have temporary in nature. To build a factory, we have to have temporary schedule, or the starting and the ending, and even to develop a software, we have to have a temporary schedule, or we have to have a specific budget and a scope. Unlike that of the project, manufacturing is an operation, or manufacturing is an operation activity because it is a routine and a daily activity which doesn't have ending point. And utilization of a software, after developing a software, we are going to just utilize that software for an indefinite period of time. So utilization of a software is part of an operations. Let us see some of the old-time projects, the giant projects. People have been undertaking projects since the earliest day of organized human activity. So let us see some of the old-time projects. The Apollo project, that is just to send a man to the moon, which is conducted by NASA just before around 15 years. And the other is the Lalibela Church, which was constructed during the 11th century. It is a giant project which was constructed during that time. And the other is the Aksum obelisk, which was constructed even before the Lalibela, that is during the 3rd and the 4th century. And the other giant project is the Egypt pyramid, which was just constructed before Christ during 2550 to 2490. Look, this is just before almost 5,000 or 4,000 years ago. And the other is the Chinese Great Wall. So it is also constructed during 770 to 476 before Christ. So mind you, all these projects are the ancient project, and they just share the characteristics of what? The characteristics of the projects. So to conclude, people have been undertaking projects since the earliest day of organized human activity. That is, the history of the project just aligned with the history of the project is aligned with the history of mankind. Let me give you an exercise just to try. So I have provided you these two columns. The first one is just taking class notes daily, entering sales receipt into accounting ledger, responding to a supply chain request, practicing physical exercise, routine manufacturing of Samsung, attaching tags to a manufactured products. And on the second columns, I provide you writing a term paper, setting up wedding hall for ceremony, developing a supply chain information system, new Samsung mobile release, designing an iPod with latest feature. So determine which of the following are projects and which are operations. So just try to answer these activities by just saying projects and operations. You can write it on the comment box. And coming to the almost the last sections, that is projects, programs, and portfolios. These are the important terms, by the way. These are the important terms. So a project manager or the one who is engaged in a project need to know about the difference between projects, programs, and portfolio. So according to this aspect, let us see the differences. So according to the definitions, projects are just temporary endeavors with unique goals. Look, but for a programs include multiple related projects. Look, multiple related projects managed as a group. Program is just a collection of projects, but they have to be related. They have to be related, or they have to be sequential, which is related. For a portfolio is a collection of programs, projects, and other initiatives. So portfolio is wider. Portfolio is wider than programs, so portfolio may include programs and projects. In a program, by the way, there are related projects, and portfolio can also include projects which is not related with the programs and even other initiatives. So when we see the scope for a project, there is well-defined and finite. For a program, the scope is broader. We know that a program includes multiple related projects, so it has long-term and broader and ongoing. And for a portfolio, wide range of initiatives and projects are included according to the scope. It is a wide range of initiatives and projects. When we see with regard to interdependencies, projects can be independent or interrelated. Project is independent actually, because here we are talking about a single project, but for a programs there are highly interrelated projects. For a portfolio, projects and programs may have dependency or may not have dependencies. In the case of portfolio, according to the focus, the project has individual outcomes, whereas the programs have overall coordination and benefits realization, because it is wider. And for a portfolio, alignment with strategic objectives, because it is wider. The scope is wider, so it should be aligned. It is aligned with the strategic objectives. According to the resources, the projects are allocated a specific resource for a specific projects. In the case of programs, those multiple projects shared and coordinate resources. Resources is shared among the projects because they are related and sequential projects. And in the case of portfolio, resources are allocated based on the priority, because here there are multiple programs and projects, so we have to allocate resources according to their priority. According to the risk and complexity, relatively lower risk for a project. By the way, we are comparing projects with programs and portfolio. When, as you remember, when we compare projects with that of operations, so projects have higher risk, but in this case, projects have relatively lower risk and complexity than programs, because in the case of programs, there are multiple related projects, so it has higher risk and complexity. And in the case of portfolio, the risk and complexity become diverse, because the diversity nature of what? The programs and the projects within the portfolio. Let us take examples for a project. Building a single construction may be a project, or developing a software for a particular purpose is a project. For a program, large-scale IT implementation. Within that large-scale IT implementation, there may be several projects, small projects, which are interrelated. And the organization change can be another, the overall organization change can be another examples of the program, because within the organizational change, there are different projects which is included in the organization. To just accomplish the organizational change, there may be several projects. That's why it becomes a program. And in the case of portfolio, the organizational wide strategic initiatives become the examples for the portfolio. Let me give you another exercise. So I just provided you an exercise with regard to different sectors: the retail, the construction, and the software. So read those three columns, that is yellow, the red one, and the blue one. So just align or match with the project, program, and portfolio. So if you have any problem or issue with this exercise, you can write on the comment box. So this is the end of today's discussion, and we will meet with the next lesson next time. Till then, have a good time. Bye.